Hi everyone, my name is Dima and I'm CTO at MixBytes, and today I'll be talking about how to build a rebaseable token in a multi-chain environment. Before we start, let me introduce MixBytes. We're mostly focusing on conducting security audits. We have been auditing since 2017. We performed over 250 audits. We worked with more than 60 clients, and most of our clients come back to us with new scopes, with new audits, with new updates, and our main clients are presented here. So back to the topic, who is here familiar with LiDAR team and what they are building? Please raise a hand. Nice. Okay, I thought like the full audience would be like raising hands. LiDAR team is building liquid staking solution, and their main token is stETH, and it's like very well-known collateral that is used in most of DeFi protocols as a collateral. And now with emerging of layer 2s, different sharding solutions for Ethereum, users want to have such good collateral at Optimism, for example, Base, Arbitrum, or any other rollup to stake it directly from the rollup. And but the stETH is a rebaseable token, so you cannot just bridge it to Optimism, for example, because you will not. It's like impossible. You need to have an exchange rate on the Optimism, so users will be able to track their rebases and increases of their balances. Like when you're staking your ETH to the LiDAR, and the protocol actually means shares to you, and it's an internal representation of the of your balance in the protocol, and this is like the balance that can be received if you decide to wrap staked ETH to wrap staked ETH and receive non-rebaseable version of liquid staking token. And also, like wrap staked ETH is already bridged to most of the rollups, so the LiDAR team decided to use it as under the hood solution for transferring staked ETH to the rollups. And for making it, they decided to wrap staked ETH to the wrap staked ETH on Ethereum side, transfer it to the Optimism, for example, and use an exchange rate on the Optimism to wrap it back to staked ETH. But the main problem was how to transfer exchange rate, so it will be the same on the Ethereum side and on the Optimism side, and the exchange rate is usually updates every day, so it was like kind of hard task to solve. And what was the obstacles that LiDAR team was trying to solve? The first one is if we transfer the exchange rate on it update from the Ethereum side, there is a chance that the transaction with update will stuck, because Optimism can just stop processing blocks, and we can set low gas, and our transaction will not be executed on the Optimism, and the exchange rate on the Optimism side will be outdated. So for these purposes, the LiDAR team decided to propagate the exchange rate on every action of the user from L1 to L2, on all transfers of wrap staked ETH or staked ETH or exchange rate updates. Will transfer the exchange rate from Ethereum to Optimism, and in this case it will be up to date. But actually no, because even with such solution, there will be still some delays in the exchange rate update. So we'll need to think about solution that will help us to solve this problem. And we can use wrap stETH, a non-rebasable version of the liquid token, as a source of accounting for bridging. And actually it helps. So like a user will not lose any value if they decide to go from Ethereum to Optimism and back, if we use wrap stETH as an accounting measure. So yes, actually this can work, but if we use centralized exchanges to transfer, for example, from Ethereum to Optimism, and if the centralized exchange uses exchange rate from Ethereum side only, then the centralized exchange will lose some value. So they need to know how to work with a rebasable token, but the Light team contacted them and they were aware of how to work with such tokens. And now let's check the design that they used. Actually, it's quite simple. There was already implemented and deployed the part that allows to transfer wrap stETH to Optimism. There is a L1 ERC20 tokens bridge contract for that, and it interacts with native contract that Optimism deployed on Ethereum side. It's L2 Messenger, and it allows you to transfer wrap stETH to Optimism. And to transfer stETH to Optimism, you need to just wrap it to wrap stETH. That's why we have an integration with wrap stETH contract. And after that, you're just transferring wrap stETH to the Optimism, and you're also transferring the current exchange rate. So on Optimism side, you know at which proportion to unwrap wrap stETH to stETH. And also you'll need to have the several contracts to propagate the exchange rate. There is a special contract token rate notifier, and it receives callbacks from the LIDA contract. It's called handle post token rebase. It's called every day on the exchange rate update, and on these updates, this contract just propagates the exchange rate to Optimism and uses token rate pusher for the Optimism, but you can add any adapter here to propagate the exchange rate to any network, and it will allow you to build stETH on any network that is connected with Ethereum. And on the L2 side, you have already implemented L2 ERC20 tokens bridge that was used to transfer wrap stETH from L1 to L2. And you also need to have token rate oracle that will store current exchange rate. And you also need to deploy stETH contract that will allow users to wrap and unwrap it from wrap stETH and to mint it to users. So the architecture is quite simple, and it can be used for different purposes for building rebasable tokens. And the features that allows you to build such tokens, and that these rules can be used also, I think, in sharded systems to build something that requires updates on every day. And the first one is that you need to have only one source of truth, because if you have different sources that says you the current exchange rate equal X or Y, then you cannot build on such systems. You need to build a consensus mechanism on top of it, so it will give you correct value of the exchange rate, for example. And in the case that we discussed with stETH on Optimism, it was the LIDA contract on the Ethereum side. Also, you need to think that about the architecture that allows the node allows any losses for users on the transfers from the L1 to L2 and back. And for these purposes, you can use just like non-rebasable token for accounting. And in case with stake ETH on Optimism, wrap stake ETH token was used for accounting. That's why we can transfer stake ETH to Optimism and back and do not lose any value. And also you need to think about all the integration, for example, centralized exchanges or any other off-chain services that like need to know about current exchange rate. So they should know from which contract they need to like read the value of the current exchange rate. And that's it. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. I'm not sure if I know how stETH behaves during the slashing events, but like how the current system like handles slashing stuff.
So slashing simply leads to exchange rate decreasing. And for example, you can like receive slashing on the Ethereum side, and the Ethereum side exchange rate will be like 2 after the slashing. And for example, on the Optimism side, the exchange rate will be 3. So actually on the Optimism, you will have like bigger balance than on Ethereum.
Yeah, so you have like some arbitrage opportunity basically.
Actually, it's impossible to exploit it in any way, because the only thing that gives you the arbitrage opportunity is like if you decide to go on a DEX and swap it there, but the fees that DEX applied to you will be bigger than the profit. And actually, the Lido team conducted like a huge research to determine which possible ways to exploit differences between exchange rate, and there is like no such things.
So it's basically based on the fact that like slashing impact is so small that it's essentially impossible to exploit.
Like decreases and increases, and exchange rate is quite small.
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
Hey, why does there even exist a staked ETH still? Why is it not all like wrapped stake ETH? Because usually also for integration purposes, integrating a rebasing token always is like a nightmare. But wrapped stake ETH like has solved this kind of, right? Like why does the staked ETH still exist? Why is it not all wrapped stake ETH?
Because if you're like solo staker, for example, if you want to just like stake ETH and to check your balance, to check how much rewards you accrued, it's much easier for you to just hold staked ETH and not to use wrap staked ETH, go to Etherscan and check how the rebase was like with your balance. So for these purposes, I think there are like a lot of people who want to stake their ETH and receive rewards daily on the rollups. For these purposes, they want to hold just staked ETH, not wrap staked ETH, because like checking their balance on the daily basis, it's not very good UX, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, with like protocol integrations, wrap stake ETH is much easier.
Excuse me, it just didn't like make me believe you that that's the real value behind the product, because like to breach a staked ETH onto the rollup, you have to first acquire it on the mainnet, right, and then breach it. So you can't buy it on the rollup, or sorry, that's the wrong question. I just don't get the value behind the whole thing.
There should be like liquidity providers, right? Who, for example, you can build a protocol that acquires ETH on a rollup and like transfer it to Ethereum side, stake it there, and transfer staked ETH back to the rollup, and users can have their staked ETH there.
I have a question, like if, like staked ETH rebases the types of oracles, like on L1, like why you don't use the same people to just rebase it on different, like rollups?
Because it's quite hard to make such oracles to send information to the Ethereum side and to rollup side simultaneously. So there will be like some delays. And also the exchange rate update can be determined only after the reporting. So like there could be some different...
But you can in general implement some type of logic on a rollup where you, if you update, for example, their price or made their base, like in next breach transaction, it upgrades the breach to, like exchange too.
Well, actually, it was my solution to the LIDA problem. Like when they approached me and asked like what to do with this and like how to better build it, there were two solutions, as I know. Like the first one is with propagating the exchange rate, and the second one was like updating the exchange rate simultaneously on Ethereum side and on the rollup side. They decided to use the current solution. I think it's quite secure, so yeah. And also, if you like using the exchange rate on the rollup side, I think there could be some problems with the rollups if they just like stop producing blocks. And in this case, off-chain oracles cannot update exchange rate, and it will be like not in synchronized state. So the current architecture, maybe it's like more secure, I think.
But then does it actually mean that the network congestion for an Optimism side change the exchange rate drastically, or like is this some problem during the network congestion on the L2 side with your solution?
Could you repeat the question?
I mean, is there any like specific impact during the network congestion on L2? What will happen with the stETH in case of the like centralized sequencer of Optimism will stuck on some reason?
Like if Optimism decide to terminate their blockchain, for example?
I don't know. No, there's like maybe some huge airdrop from the Optimism side and the network stacks.
So there will be like a huge delay in the exchange rate update, but users will not lose any values because they will hold the exact same amount of shares that they would hold on the Ethereum side. So if they decide to go back, they will accrue all the like increases in the exchange rate that they lost while they were on the Optimism. So it's like there is no losses, just different balances.
Okay, so there is like no arbitrage even between networks in that case.
Actually, yeah.
Sorry, I might just formulated my question a bit better than the previous time. I mean, the product use case. So that means that like stETH on rollups will become even more expensive that it is on mainnet, and you can't actually use like rebasing tokens on DEXs, especially on L2s. You still have to wrap it, and as you mentioned in the beginning of your presentation, the biggest like use case for LIDA for like LST in general is to be a collateral for like using DeFi, and just I don't see what the value behind.
You can use stETH as collateral on Aave, for example, and use it to like there for leveraging. And for example, now we have Base, right? And if there will be a lot of ETH and staked ETH on Base, there will be a very low cost leveraging opportunities there. So I think that's one of the use cases. So like the transaction cost is costing nothing.
But the initial transaction will still rate the same.
Yeah, you can like accumulate several transactions, for example, like build vaults on top of it. So you're not sending just only one transaction, you're sending like a lot of transactions and going with this amount to the rollup and like use it there.
Okay. Any other questions? No.
Thank you.